You know, the governor has potential power that she has not even asked for. Strange way to start the show, I know, but you know, there are, what, 44 states in America that have the line item veto, where governors can say, I like most of what's going on here with our state spending, but not this. Override me, I dare you. And Governor Raimondo seems somewhat reticent to actually even engage this debate. Well, Ken Block is not. Ken, of course, from watchdogri.org. He's done a lot of work on the master lever and a whole bunch of other things. Of course, he's run for office a couple of times, and Ken is no stranger to the program, but he's re-engaging a constituent battle here for a line item veto, and I think if it ever came to a vote, we'd all say, of course we need a line item veto. We'll talk to Ken about the nature and the nuances and the politics of that coming up this evening. Nice to have you aboard. Thank you very much for watching My State of Mind. I am Dan York. You hear us and see us at 7:30 and 11:30 on MyRI-TV weeknights, and now each weeknight at midnight on Fox Providence. After Family Guy stops, a couple of minutes later, bang, there we are. And based on the last couple of nights, looks like a lot of you are watching, so good, thank you. 3 chances, no excuses. Let's go to the rundown and see what we got here. Yeah, we got some serious computer glitches around America today. The headline is, looked like all the heck was breaking loose there for a minute. The stock exchange, the WallStreetJournal.com, first in the morning, United Airlines. You know, as I was driving into work late morning, and the notice came over about the stock exchange. Oh boy. But first, let's talk about the airlines, because a lot of people are trying to get around. Oh boy.
They were shoulder to shoulder and elbow to elbow as passengers dealt with United Airlines' massive ground stoppage.
Something's not right, but I don't know exactly what.
The frustrations of Walter Barron, headed home to Costa Rica, were typical. The stoppage impacted travelers who had just landed as well, keeping them from deplaning for some time. But look here, as soon as the glitch was resolved, United personnel were busy with a new problem, shuffling travelers from checkpoint to checkpoint to issue tickets and get them on their way as fast as possible.
Now, that is just a headache. But what could have been a nightmare is if the stock exchange had anything worse than it was today. So I was saying, I came into work and I got my little, my little on my phone update, and they just said, they shut down. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, did we lose like 3,000 points or something? No, it was only a couple of hundred. And then they stopped it because the computers weren't working. Of course, the White House was asked to react to that.
This afternoon, the president was briefed by his Homeland Security Advisor, Lisa Monaco, and the White House Chief of Staff, Dennis McDonough, about the technical issues that are currently being experienced by the New York Stock Exchange. Ms. Monaco told the president that at this point there is no indication that malicious actors are involved in these technology issues. Officials at the stock exchange are working feverishly, as you'd expect, to try to resolve the situation. For an update on their efforts, I would encourage you to contact them.
Yeah, we don't know anything about it, or we don't think anybody dastardly did anything. It does go to show you, though, and remind us what kind of cyber reliance we have. And it should, even though we had some weird stuff going on, re-engage, reinforce, accelerate cybersecurity efforts out there. All right, next item. This is kind of neat. New Ed Commissioner, new life has been breathed into the system now that Deb Gist has been replaced by Dr. Ken Wagner from New York State. Headline today. You got to make this read. You got to do this. You have to take a look at Dan McGowan's Dozen Things to Know about the new commissioner, because it's a very good read. You get a good background on everything that he is doing. The governor was excited, and so was he, as he was introduced today.
Someone who values fairness and equity. I heard that word equity over and over again. And someone who treats teachers like the professionals that they are, and who supports teachers.
As a school psychologist, I'm trained to listen, and I look forward to putting that training to practice on behalf of the people of Rhode Island. It's the students, the families, the teachers, and the principals. Those are the people on the ground who make this incredibly difficult work happen.
You know, I'm watching the governor's clips, and if you weren't paying attention, You would think that maybe she was inferring that the last ed commissioner didn't think the teachers were the heroes that they are on the ground. You know, whenever a door is closed and another door is open, sometimes we either purposely or inadvertently kick the last one on the way out. Deb Gist did a good job here. The nice thing about reading Dan McGowan's piece on the 12 things to know about Dr. Ken Wagner is that he seems to agree a lot with what Deb Gist was trying to do, which is something that I predicted, by the way, because the unions wanted a name change. The governor wasn't promising a policy change. We'll see. Time will tell. Day one, who knows? But it's going to be interesting. Nothing is more important than the ed commissioner in this state. Nothing. The listening tour. What a joke this is. What an absolute ridiculous exercise this is. Providence Journal headline. Listening tour gets an earful in Smithfield, and Eyewitness News was there for meeting number 1 of 39 planned around the state. This one in Smithfield.
The Paw Sox ownership group is now meeting with Rhode Islanders outside of Pawtucket and Providence about the potential ballpark move to the capital city. Charles Steinberg is a senior advisor to one of the team's owners, Larry Lucchino.
When there was a changeover and a restart to the process, a lot of us just felt you have to just involve the community.
The Paw Sox announcement of their desire to move to Providence quickly became controversial.
To have something like that, I think, provides a place for a lot of valuable social interaction.
I'm not too much in favor of it.
Rhode Island's House Speaker Nicholas Mattiello says in the House's special session coming up this fall, they may discuss the move if a deal is solidified.
Look, this is just not smart, because we're not stupid. There's nothing to listen to one way or the other. When Jim Skeffington, God rest his soul, the original president of the new ownership of the Paw Sox, unexpectedly and tragically passed away, he was already in hot water with his major taxpayer ask, which was $4 million a year net for 30 years. I mean, that went over like a thud. The governor, even here on this show, was saying, you know, practically paraphrasing, over my dead body, no way. People were revolting. So if there are folks out there who like the idea of a stadium in Providence at no taxpayer or little taxpayer expense, the only way you're going to get them to sign on board now, because this is dead on arrival, is to give them the New Deal. You know, walk around this exercise. We want to involve the people. In what? Tell us what your new idea is. Tell us what the new financing plan is. Don't hide it from anybody, and don't run around the state going through this charade trying to say, well, we're listening. Well, we're listening. Guess what? You can't till fertile ground right now because you scorched it, you being the new ownership, with the first ask. It's infuriating to see how ridiculously inept this new Paw Sox management is trying to get this deal done. Insane. Tell us the truth. Next item. A Tale of Two Towns. Man, I'll tell you, development is not everybody's bag. You got Pawtucket doing this new deal, which we're going to ask folks to come in and tell us about. We got a headline that explains what's happening there. And Eyewitness News did a little background on it.
With the newly renovated Festival Pier as the backdrop, Pawtucket Mayor Don Grebbian announced the next steps to transform vacant land near the intersection of Water Street and Division Street. The city's evaluation team recommends moving forward with the development proposal, and it's now up to City Council. Lifelong resident Mary Guyton has family who lives close by.
Well, it's about time for a change for Pawtucket, because Pawtucket doesn't have anything down in the city.
You know what? I'm sure that people will be engaged and excited. But sometimes development is not the cup of tea. In Tiverton, there's a different headline. All heck is breaking loose here. Vote no, vote no. This development, not so much. Look at the people that are just absolutely, going nuts over this whole thing. Tiverton is a town that wants to protect itself. They've already got a casino proposal there. And a lot of folks feel like the development they're talking about, which would look a little bit like the place across from Garden City in Cranston, is just too much commercial for them. So look, if you're in Tiverton and you want to tell us why this is a bad idea, contact us at the number I'm going to give you at State of Mind, your State of Mind. I'd like to talk to you folks about what it is that you're bothered about with this development. Of course, we'd like to have the developers on too to explain what they'd like to do. And lastly, toll talks here. Now that we've adjourned the General Assembly session, do not think that the work's still not being done. The headline explains that the governor and the House Speaker met for an hour and a half to discuss, amongst other things, the truck toll option. Look, Nick Mattiello, the Speaker of the House, is thinking gas tax maybe instead of, you know, fake bridges and fake tolls and all the stuff that the Raimondo administration is trying to pull here. But he also says, hey, we may do exactly what she wants. Everything is negotiable, and the truth of the matter is that they're not just negotiating on the merits of this challenge, and that is the condition of our infrastructure. There's all sorts of other chits that are being passed here. Pay close attention over the summer, because they're coming back in the fall, and one way or the other, we're going to get whacked. Your state of mind is important to us, and again, anytime that you want to join the show or leave a message about the show, do that at the same number, 228-1886. If you have an opinion that you want aired here, just remind us of that and we'll run it for you. Email us, Facebook post, tweet, you know how to do that. Here's one. Andrew says, you're missing something here, Dan. What Trump says has an underlying bigotry to it. Plain and simple, most people are not buying what he's selling, which is divisive and bigoted. Now, Andrew, you're talking about some of my comments yesterday about the narrowing freedom of speech avenue for Donald Trump and others. The bigger the office, the less you can say. Look, the divisive and bigoted part, that's your opinion. Remember that. You are not the soothsayer of divisive and bigoted. When we come back, line item veto. We need it. He's working for it. It's a big project. We'll talk about it. You know, issue and citizen advocacy is a really important thing, and the more advocates we can get on this radio and television program, the radio, of course, is on WPRO weekdays noon to 3, long-time relationship with you there, but here as well, please let us know. And Ken Block doesn't ever hesitate, and he shouldn't, because he's been working on some things that are helping the community, no doubt. Here is the website for what is called lineItemVeto.org, and simply stated, 44 states give their governors the power of a line item veto. It's time for Rhode Island to join the rest of the country. Former gubernatorial candidate, WatchdogRI.org creator, and lineItemVeto.org creator. You're an org creator.
I'm an org creator.
How are you, kiddo?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Nice to have you in. Let's just set the stage. You've been saying some things about fire protection and all that, and we've done programs on it. All that diligence and your ongoing analysis of fire expense in this state can be seen at watchdogri.org.
Correct.
Your new project, which in some ways mirrors the Master Lever project, is called lineItemVeto.org. But the concept of line item veto should not be some newfangled cyber, marketing plan. Duh.
Yeah.
It's a duh.
It is a duh. The Master Lever was a duh.
Remind everybody what the Master Lever was.
So Rhode Island was one of only 12 states in the country that allowed voters to vote essentially by party as opposed to by candidate. It was a necessary reform that had to be done, but there was tremendous pushback and reluctance on the part of the General Assembly to make this change. And I suspect it's because ultimately the Master Lever helped to get Democrats elected to some extent, and it took a big, huge public push to overcome the General Assembly's reluctance to make that happen. Same thing with the light item veto.
Well, just to remind everybody, even as you won the Master Lever in the calendar year 2014, you couldn't get the General Assembly to enact it right away. They're like, look, all right, whatever, but we need to wait to 2016.
Right.
So know, everybody, that in 2016, when you vote, you will no longer be able to draw that line. See, the concept of Master Lever is that when we used to click the switch, you'll no longer be able to vote by party, and that is due to a lot of folks' work, including your advocacy at the State House. But recalling when the arguments first began, it felt like a cry in the wilderness, did it not?
Absolutely.
Like nobody was paying attention to it, blah, blah, blah.
Bills to eliminate the Master Lever had been pending for 50 years.
5-0.
5-0. Before we eventually were able to bring enough of a public push behind it to get it rammed through. And the same dynamic is here. This particular change, the light item veto, is a much more difficult change to get done because this cuts right to the power of the Speaker. What the light item veto does, in a nutshell, is it balances power when it comes to budgetary issues between the Speaker, the Senate President, and the Governor. Right now, the Governor is really a bystander in the budgetary process. Once the budget's been submitted by the Governor, the only actions that she has available to her is to, when the final budget is given back to her 6 months after she submits it, she can either approve it, veto it, or allow it to pass without a signature. In 44 other states, their governors have the ability to go through that budget, identify individual elements of that budget, and eliminate them. Now, obviously the Speaker would much rather that the Governor had no ability to do that to his budget, but
not to interrupt, but remember, when she eliminates them, it's not the end of the story.
Right.
The legislature can come back and by what is usually a supermajority vote, 2/3, say, ha ha ha,
Right.
checkmate to your checkmate, we want it.
Correct.
But that puts legislators on major league hot seats on
Correct.
specific issues.
Absolutely. It's a necessary check and a balance. Vitally necessary. So look what happened in this legislative session. There was clearly friction between the governor's office and the legislature. The light item veto would have provided another tool in the governor's arsenal to be more of a factor in what happens at the end of the session. The final budget, there was a news article about a week ago that said that the budget that was passed is actually $50 million more in the red than it was projected to be. So it's now $125 million in the red. With the light item veto, the governor would have had the ability to go through that budget, make changes to it right now, early on, and help to bring it in balance, as opposed to needing to wait for an entire year or to do something further down the line. It's good government, it's sound economic policy, in every way it's good, and most importantly, the rest of the country does it this way.
You know, I wonder what your analysis is and whether you've got a gut on this or whether there's a stat to back it up. We're often referred to as a weak governor state by Constitution, and I think that's accurate. And nonchalantly, even in the case of Gordon Fox, the former speaker who just went to jail, the news reports are, well, the gentleman who was the most powerful position, or had the most powerful position in Rhode Island, the Speaker of the House, because of the control he or she has on the budget, really has got most of the juice. How significant do you think the line item veto would be to bring Rhode Island to some kind of perceived parallel that the branches of government are co-equal? This is a powerful tool.
It's a powerful tool. It's not a silver bullet because the way that the rules of the legislature operate, the ability for bills to be held for further study and killed without accountability, there's a lot of functional ways that the legislature operates and that the governor can and cannot interact with the legislature. That still makes it constitutionally weak. I met with John Marion the other day, and one of the things that he had mentioned to me
of Common
Cause,
right.
And one of the fountains of information when it comes to how the legislature works, and he was telling me that in most other states the governor can order the General Assembly to reconvene off session. In Rhode Island, they cannot. So there's a number of things like that that go into balancing the power and creating the check and balance that we need. But when it comes to the budget in particular, the light item veto is a big deal. And we are definitely an outlier relative to the rest of the country. And it's a no-brainer for us to fix this. We just have to put enough pressure on the legislature, and next year is an election year. So there's no better year to bring that pressure on individual members of the General Assembly than next year to try and force this change through.
Right, and we'll talk about how that might work and how it actually would happen when we come back. Stay with us. All right, so process. Ken Block is with us. Ken is now running his watchdogri.org, which is looking at fire expense right now, but I'm sure will grow into other things that you're checking on. Lineitemveto.org is a subset of this work, and is a big enough project to stand on its own, have its own web, its own organization. Are you one-manning it at this juncture, just in terms of what the website represents?
Yeah, so the website really runs itself, and the concept behind the website is to make it really easy for Rhode Island voters to visit the website within about 30 seconds, send an email to the governor, to the speaker, to the Senate president, asking them to implement a line item veto for Rhode Island. Because when people interact with their legislators, when the legislators see that there is a push and that enough people are behind it, they begin to appreciate that they potentially have to do something. And the magic number is how many people you get to come. In this last session, we had about 1,300, a little bit more than 1,300 people send those emails this session. Next session, we need to double or triple that to really get this done.
All right, so let's do the math on this. Well, let's talk about the structure of government and how this might be affected. Simply, you need the General Assembly to authorize a referendum in the next general election.
Correct.
And it simply is a majority of the General Assembly, along with the governor's signature, a majority of the voters, bang, bang, boom, it's done. It's not any more complicated than that.
Right. So this change gets enacted through a constitutional amendment. And the way we get the amendment done is the legislature has to pass a bill that authorizes the question to go on the ballot. When a majority of voters approve the question, boom, we have a line item veto.
It seems simple. I think that, and I think they know at the General Assembly, that if this thing goes to referendum, it's a slam dunk.
No question.
I don't know what the arguments would be against it.
It's hard to construct one.
That's how much of a slam dunker this one is. Yeah. And so it'll be interesting to see what kind of political pressure you, others, me too, because I'm all for this, can put on the General Assembly, and namely the Speaker of the House and the Senate President. Do you think that could be turned on a dime in 2015, 2016?
So the trick is to put pressure on the individual legislators who are accountable to the voters in their district. Those voters pressure their senator, their representative, and say, I want you to vote for this. Tell me you're going to vote for it. And when enough legislators go to leadership and say, I'm getting a lot of heat to pass this, that's how you begin to push the leadership to put the bill out.
And you get a General Assembly that's going to be ripe and fertile ground in an election season come next winter, January, Correct. February, March. Without a vote, there'll be a lot of folks saying, you didn't give us a chance, and then all heck is rained down on them come election day.
That is the hope.
Well, I think that's the plan, man.
Yeah.
It's about power at this point.
This is about power and ultimate control over the budget. Because what we have right now
I wonder, last question, I don't need, I'm seeing running out of time. No problem. Governor Raimondo has not been very aggressive. You got to get her on board.
Yeah, she has not been, and we will be talking to her directly about a much more prominent role in this issue in the next session.
Because it's not about her. It's about position.
This is about position. This is about making a change to make Rhode Island work like the rest of the country.
All right, lineitemveto.org. Check out Ken's website. Get engaged. All right, one more thing. Hey, listen, we need that line item veto, and you got to get engaged in that. Tomorrow night, Code Red. Not on the show, but we'll talk to the EMA director about a very important program to keep us safe, all right? We'll see you on the radio at noon on WPRO and back here in 3 places on TV tomorrow night. Bye-bye.